In this session, we're going to talk about how you go about market sizing and why it's important and its impact on your strategy. I'm Anupama Pansare, and let me give you a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm the CEO here at Wallix, and we're focused on consulting, data science, and the energy heavy industry. I'm passionate about startups. We work with a lot of startups, helping them open new doors and accounts at some of our major clients. And I'm also a startup investor, mentor, and coach. I'm a partner with Congress Avenue Ventures. I'm always eager to meet new startups, innovative technologies, both from an investment perspective for our portfolio, as well as, in opening new doors for you guys and making introductions. Feel free to contact me. I've included my contact information. So without further ado, why bother? Why bother with market sizing? Well, survival, right? That's what we're talking about here. The difference between understanding your market and sizing it and seeing the trends over the business horizon can be the difference between a Kodak Xerox moment or a FANG moment, right? So both Kodak and Xerox defined their industries. They were synonyms for their industries, and yet they got disrupted by digital. Now, you look at the disruptors, right? The digital digitality, if you will, of the Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. They are focused very keenly on their market, understanding the trends. Google, for example, began as a search engine and now owns the internet, owns the traffic, right? Because they correctly understood the trends that were coming and where they need to capture value. So throughout your business life cycle, you too during ideation will need market size in order to determine if this is an industry to play in. When you're going through your startup and growth phase, as you approach investors, as you approach new markets, you need to be correctly market sizing. And as a mature industry, just like the FANGs, you need to be doing this market sizing exercise, not only for your core business, but also for future acquisitions. So the one thing we can take away from the FANG is sheer market dominance. The way they do that is by wowing their customer. And how can you as a startup do that? Again, the product market fit is all about actually market, right? Understanding the market. You want to actually put this in a little bit different manner. I like to say it's more market, understanding the fit, and then putting in the right product, right? So if you already got a product, you may think about tweaking, pivoting to fit the market. Or if you don't have a product, then you have a blank slate and you want to build that product to fit the current market. So how do you go about defining market size? So first step is actually brainstorming around these questions. You want to first understand who your competitors, identify your top 3 to 5 competitors, and then answer these questions around what's the size of this market, how much of this market can you conservatively take over, what are the buying habits in this customer for your customers, right? Why are your customers buying from your competitors? How can you make them switch, right? That is the key question here is how can you identify a segment of the market that is not addressed so you can dominate that market, or how can you make your current customers switch? So the important part over here is understanding who is the target customer, and in this target customer profile, who should you be targeting, right? So once you've done this brainstorming, which actually I suggest that you do it together with your team, your founders, co-founders, and your core team. Use sticky notes on a wall, but in this time of COVID, being online, digital, there are a lot of sticky tools online. You could use one of those and do this online. Once you've got these answers from your collective think, you can distill those so that you have, kind of the top answers or the cohesive answer for some of these questions. The next piece is defining your market size. So here you want to identify your target market and then conduct a top-down and bottom-up analysis. And the next step is growth and then financial projections. So let's first look at target market. So in a given market, the total addressable market is the entire market. So let's say you're addressing the energy industry, it could be, the entire energy industry. The sales or addressable market is the market where there is that product market fit. Right? So maybe you have a product which can address upstream, downstream, refineries, drilling, so on. And then the target market is where you decided that you've segmented the market and you decided that you're only focused, let's say, on offshore platforms. Right? So that makes it a very narrow focused market that you're going to address. Now, once you define this market, we talked about a top-down and a bottom-up. So with the top down, you're beginning with some statistics, let's say industry size, assumptions around the growth and so on to come up with the total market size. The advantage of top down methodology is that it's quick. It's sort of the back of the napkin kind of analysis, which is good in early stages, but you need to back it up with bottoms up methodology, which is looking at, for your estimated, for your market size, looking at who are the dominant players there, right? Let's say you're looking at the energy services industry, then you've got the Schlumbergers, the Halliburtons, the Baker Hughes, so on. They have all their financial numbers public, so you can get all of that information and roll it up. And then you can estimate for those three competitors that you identified, what is their share of the market, and so what can be their revenue. Right? This is a good exercise because you know what the smaller players are making, as well as when you answer that question of how much of this current market share can we steal from our customers, right? How do we make that switch? You can have estimates of what pieces of this pie you can realistically take. So to answer some of these questions, right, these data points, these statistics, these assumptions, you need some research sources. Two types of sources: primary, which you conduct yourself or hire a consultant, or secondary sources. So here you can look at, various industry reports like IHS Markit, Gartner, Statista, SEC financial filings. On the primary side, you could conduct interviews with your customer base. If you don't have any customers, are a new startup, you could possibly reach out using social media, surveys, paid ads, and then have them conduct surveys. Those are some hacks that you can use. The other is also looking at your own current sales and year-over-year growth. If you've been around for a couple of years, maybe a year or two, you can kind of see the trends, where things are going. So you marry this with the market or the industry analysis so that you get an idea of what these numbers look like for you. Right? Because the industry or the market research reports are generic. They're not specific to the problem you're solving. Right? A lot of times, startups are solving unique problems, so the generic numbers may not quite apply. So here's an example of when you're doing market research, right? How do you find the search terms? What should you be looking for? So let's say you're doing a drones for inspections in the energy space. You could look at various synonyms, right, which I've listed out over here. And I'm looking for market size, market landscape, who's out there, and NAICS codes. So when I look at this, what I'm trying to do is find out for all the current players in the industry, what's the size of their revenue, what's the size of their market share, and then come up with an estimate of what would be the size of my market share were I to enter this industry. And so once you've done these two, the next step is using those research reports we talked about, research sources we talked about, to look at market growth rate and be able to marry both the market size and the growth rate so that you're able to put together financial projections and your revenue numbers for the next 3 to 5 years. That hockey stick that you put together is reasonable and credible. So that's the benefit of doing market sizing. So what are next steps? I would, take, just as I did for the drones, do this for your own startup. What is the market size? And like I said, this is an evergreen process that you want to repeat at regular intervals and discover new information so you do not risk being a Kodak and don't have a Kodak moment. Instead, you're always sizing this market, understanding the change, especially in times like today where COVID has disrupted a lot of different industries, including energy. You want to look at and understand what are trends, what is coming around. Is it decarbonization? Is it going to be green energy? Should you be expanding your offerings to address other verticals, so on? And so I hope this session was useful. And in conclusion, I'm always here to, if you have any questions, need help, please feel free to reach out and have a great rest of the session here at SPE. Thank you.